The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the brick buildings of Bryanston High School in Pretoria, South Africa. Elon Musk, now one of the world's most influential entrepreneurs, walked the corridors of his former school with a mixture of nostalgia and curiosity. Almost 4 decades had passed since he last set foot in this place as a student, yet the memories remained surprisingly vivid. "Everything seems smaller now," Elon remarked with a slight smile as he toured the central courtyard, accompanied by the school's current principal. The complex social dynamics of post-apartheid South Africa were evident even here, the student body now a diverse mix that would have been impossible during Musk's school days in the segregated 1980s. It was an impromptu visit. Musk was in South Africa for business matters related to a new solar energy project, and had decided, almost on impulse, to revisit the places that had shaped his childhood and adolescence. What he didn't expect was that this return to the past would trigger something far more significant than a simple trip down memory lane. It happened as he passed the maintenance room. An elderly man with a slightly hunched back and snow-white hair was struggling with a wrench on a stubborn pipe. Despite the years that had passed, Elon recognized him immediately. "Salvador? Salvador Vargas?" he asked, stopping abruptly. The old man turned slowly, squinting to focus better. "Yes, sir? It's Elon. Elon Musk. I don't know if you remember me." The tired eyes of the man gradually lit up. A smile spread across his weathered face. "Little Elon. Of course I remember you. The boy with the books and difficult questions." Salvador set the tool down on a nearby table and wiped his hands on the gray uniform he wore. "Look at you now, such an important gentleman," the principal, surprised by this unexpected encounter, interjected. "You know each other?" "Salvador was the janitor when I studied here," Elon explained, shaking the rough, calloused hand of the old man. "But that was so long ago. It must have been the early 80s. I'm surprised you're still working here." Salvador shrugged humbly. "Where else would I go, Mr. Musk? This school has been my home for almost 50 years. Elon observed the man more carefully. Salvador must now be about 80 years old, perhaps more. His movements were slow, and a slight tremor affected his right hand. Yet he continued working, fixing what needed repair, keeping the school facilities functioning. "Could we talk for a moment?" asked Elon, feeling an inexplicable need to converse with this man who formed part of memories he had kept tucked away for decades. They sat on a bench in the garden, away from the bustle of students who were beginning to leave as classes ended. Salvador moved with evident difficulty, wincing in pain as he bent his right knee. "Problems with the joint," he explained with a resigned smile. After so many years climbing up and down stairs, it was to be expected. Elon nodded thoughtfully. "Salvador, I have to tell you something you may never have known. You were important to me during my time here." The old man looked at him with genuine curiosity. "Do you remember the boys who used to bully me? That senior year group led by Johannes van der Merwe?" Salvador frowned, trying to recall. "Ah, yes. Troublesome boys. Too much energy, badly directed." "Those were difficult years for me," continued Elon. "I didn't fit in well. I was smaller than the others, talked too much about rockets and computers when no one was interested in those topics. Johannes and his friends made it a sport, finding me and making my life impossible." Salvador nodded slowly. "I remember. What you may not know is that I noticed what you did for me, how you casually appeared in the hallway when they started harassing me, or the time you reorganized the cleaning schedules to be near the library during my study hours, which was when they usually looked for me." The old man's eyes moistened slightly. "I didn't think you had noticed." "I didn't then," admitted Elon. "It was years later when I realized they weren't coincidences. You were protecting me, in your own discreet way." Salvador remained silent for a moment, watching the last students leaving the school grounds. I've always believed my job goes beyond keeping the building clean or fixing what breaks, he finally said. This is a place of learning and growth. If the children don't feel safe, how will they learn? And you, little Elon, always had something special in your eyes. A spark. I knew you would go far, though I never imagined how far. Do you remember the science materials closet? Asked Elon with a reminiscent smile. Salvador laughed softly. The one that accidentally remained unlocked some Friday afternoons? It allowed me to experiment with equipment I normally wouldn't have had access to. The batteries, the circuits, even that old German microscope. You always left everything perfectly organized, replied Salvador. No one ever noticed. The conversation flowed naturally, as if the decades that had passed were merely days. Elon listened with growing admiration to Salvador's story. The son of Spanish immigrants who arrived in South Africa, seeking better opportunities amid the complex racial politics of the country. He had begun working at the school at age 30, after losing his job at a factory that closed. What should have been temporary work became a lifetime vocation. The irony was not lost on me, Salvador explained, his eyes reflecting decades of quiet observation.
I came to this school where the elite white children of apartheid South Africa were educated, yet I couldn't live in their neighborhoods or use their facilities. But I saw humanity in those children, even when the system taught them to see differences. Elon
nodded thoughtfully. The system was broken. Many of us didn't understand the full extent of it then. And now? Salvador asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. South Africa has changed, but has it healed? This directness caught Elon off guard. Progress has been made, but true healing takes generations, he admitted. There's still much work to be done. And did you ever think about coming back, using your resources here? There was no accusation in Salvador's tone, only honest inquiry. Not enough, Elon conceded. I've focused on global problems, sustainable energy, space exploration, but perhaps I've overlooked opportunities closer to my origins. Salvador nodded, as if satisfied with this honest acknowledgement. The conversation shifted to more practical matters. And you never thought about retiring? Asked Elon, aware that Salvador had far exceeded the usual retirement age. The old man lowered his gaze. The pension wouldn't be enough. My wife Constanza needs expensive medications for her heart. And besides, he gestured, encompassing the school building. I would feel useless without this. Here I can still do something good. How much do you earn currently, if it's not indiscreet to ask? Salvador mentioned a figure that made Elon struggle to maintain a neutral expression. It was a paltry amount, especially considering inflation and the current cost of living in South Africa. And your knee, it seems to cause you considerable pain. I would need an operation, admitted Salvador. But the waiting times at the public hospital are very long, and a private hospital is beyond my means. Elon Musk, the man who had revolutionized the automotive industry, sent rockets into space and excavated tunnels beneath major cities, felt a pang of indignation. Here was a man who had dedicated half a century of his life to caring for generations of students, working until an age when most people retired, enduring daily physical pain, all for compensation that barely allowed him to subsist. Salvador, he finally said, would you like to have dinner with me tonight? I'd love for you to meet my team. We're staying at the Presidential Hotel near downtown. The old man seemed surprised by the invitation. That's very kind, Mr. Musk, but I don't think I would fit in such an elegant place. Nonsense, replied Elon with a smile. I don't fit in most of the time either. Please, I insist. I'll send a car to pick you up. And bring Constanza if she can join us. Salvador, after a few moments of hesitation, finally accepted. What the janitor didn't know was that, as they walked and talked, an idea had begun to form in Elon Musk's mind. An idea that, like many of his previous initiatives, started as a spark and quickly transformed into a burning fire of possibilities. The dinner was a pleasant but simple occasion in a private room at the hotel. Salvador and Constanza, a woman with a kind face and lively eyes despite her physical frailty, initially seemed intimidated by the surroundings, but soon relaxed in the warm company of Elon and his team. As they enjoyed dessert, Elon addressed the couple with a seriousness that contrasted with the relaxed atmosphere that had prevailed during dinner. "Salvador, I've been thinking a lot about our conversation this afternoon, about you, your work, what it has meant to generations of students, many of whom, like me, probably weren't even aware at the time." The old man nodded, not knowing exactly where the conversation was heading. "I've made a decision," continued Elon. "I'm going to create a foundation. I'll initially endow it with $50 million, specifically dedicated to improving working conditions and recognizing the work of people like you, janitors, cleaning staff, cooks, guards, all those essential workers who make it possible for schools to function, but who rarely receive the recognition or compensation they deserve." Salvador and Constanza exchanged looks of astonishment. "That's very generous," Salvador managed to articulate. "It will help many people. There's more," added Elon. "I want to offer you a role in this. Not as a janitor, but as facilities manager and practical mentor. The idea is that you can pass on your knowledge to students, how a building really works, basic notions of electricity, plumbing, carpentry. Practical skills that many young people today don't acquire." "Teach?" asked Salvador, clearly surprised by the proposal. "But I have no training as a teacher." "You have something better, 50 years of practical experience, and the ability to connect with students in a way many teachers would envy." Elon paused. "Of course, with a salary commensurate with the responsibility, and complete medical coverage for you and Constanza, including that knee operation." Salvador's eyes filled with unshed tears. Constanza took his hand, squeezing it gently. "Why?" the old man finally asked. "Why do all this for me?" Elon reflected for a moment before answering. "Because the world is full of Salvadors who go unnoticed. People who make significant differences in the lives of others without seeking recognition. And because I learned long ago that true innovation isn't just about advanced technology or space travel. Sometimes it's about recognizing human value where others don't see it." In the days that followed, Elon's team began formalizing plans for the foundation and the school renovation. However, they quickly encountered resistance from unexpected quarters. The local educational authorities, while officially supportive, raised concerns about foreign intervention in South African institutions. Some community leaders questioned why a billionaire who had left the country decades ago was suddenly interested in a local school. Even within Bryanston High itself, certain administrators worried about the disruption to established routines and hierarchies. "This is more complicated than I anticipated," Elon admitted during a strategy meeting with his team in Salvador, who had been invited to provide insight. "There seems to be resistance to change even when the change is objectively beneficial." Salvador nodded knowingly. "I've seen this pattern throughout my life here, Mr. Musk. During apartheid, under the guise of tradition. After democracy, under the guise of sovereignty. But underneath, it's often about power and who gets to wield it." "So what do we do?" asked one of Elon's advisors. "We can't force our way in." "We don't need to," Salvador replied quietly. "We need to listen first. Make this about the community's needs, not just our vision." The foundation will be stronger if it grows from local soil. Elon looked at the elderly janitor with renewed respect. You should be leading this initiative, not me. Salvador smiled. Perhaps what we need is balance. Your resources and vision, combined with local understanding and trust. This insight led to a shift in approach. Rather than announcing a fully formed plan, Elon's team organized community consultations. They met with teachers, parents, students, and local leaders, not to tell them what would happen, but to ask what was needed. These discussions revealed deeper issues than just aging infrastructure or underpaid staff. They uncovered the lingering effects of educational inequality from the apartheid era, the challenges of integrating students from vastly different socioeconomic backgrounds, and the struggle to make education relevant in a rapidly changing economy. This is becoming something much bigger than I initially envisioned, Elon confessed to Salvador after a particularly intense community meeting. But perhaps that's as it should be. Salvador nodded. The best innovations often evolve beyond their creator's original intent. In the weeks that followed, what began as an idea during a casual encounter transformed into a concrete and ambitious project. Elon assembled a team of education experts, architects, and administrators to develop a comprehensive plan that would benefit not only Salvador but would transform Bryanston High School into an innovative educational model. The project included the complete renovation of existing facilities and the construction of a new building. The Salvador Vargas Innovation Center, a space dedicated to practical learning, scientific experimentation, and technological development. Salvador, after successfully undergoing knee surgery, assumed his new role with renewed enthusiasm. To the surprise of many, though not Elon, he proved to be a natural instructor. Students gravitated toward him, fascinated by his practical knowledge and his stories about the evolution of the school over half a century. Mr. Vargas taught me more about electricity in one afternoon than my textbooks did all year, commented a 10th grade student during an interview for the local newspaper, which had begun to follow the development of the project with interest. But the initiative faced ongoing challenges. Some wealthy parents worried that the new focus on practical skills would detract from the academic rigor necessary for university admissions. Other community members expressed concern that the project might become a vanity showcase rather than addressing deeper systemic issues. Elon and Salvador navigated these concerns by maintaining transparency and adapting when criticism had merit. They established a diverse community oversight board to ensure the foundation remained accountable to local needs and perspectives. What we're creating here isn't just about buildings or equipment, Elon explained during a tense town hall meeting. It's about recognizing that education happens in many forms, through many people, not just those with traditional credentials. And it's about creating pathways for every student, whether their future lies in university studies, technical trades, or innovative entrepreneurship. Gradually, as visible progress was made and early programs demonstrated success, skepticism began to give way to cautious optimism. The renovated classrooms, with their improved lighting, technology, and accessibility features, benefited all students. The apprentice program Salvador developed, pairing students with local tradespeople, quickly gained popularity for providing practical skills and potential employment pathways. 6 months after the initial encounter, the school vibrated with the expectation of a major event. Local authorities, media, students, alumni, and the entire educational community gathered for the official inauguration of the renovations and the new innovation center. Elon Musk, despite his tight global schedule, flew specifically for the occasion. On the stage, alongside the principal, educational officials, and other personalities, Salvador and Constanza occupied places of honor. Today we celebrate much more than the renovation of a building or the creation of a new educational space. Elon began his speech. We celebrate the impact that one person can have on countless lives through decades of silent and dedicated service. He then related, to the captivated audience, how Salvador had influenced his own school experience, providing security when he was vulnerable and opportunities to explore his scientific curiosity. Many ask me what inspired me to create companies like SpaceX or Tesla. I usually talk about the science fiction books I read or the scientists I admired. But today I want to acknowledge another source of inspiration. People like Salvador Vargas, who taught me that sometimes the most powerful way to change the world is through small acts of kindness and support, consistent over time. Not everyone in the audience was fully convinced. Some still harbored doubts about the sustainability of the initiative once the initial excitement faded. Others questioned whether one wealthy benefactor's intervention could address the systemic problems in South African education. These concerns were valid, and Elon acknowledged them directly. This foundation is not a magic solution to all educational challenges, he admitted. It's a beginning, a model that we hope will inspire similar initiatives across the country and perhaps globally. The real measure of success will be whether these programs continue to evolve and adapt, long after today's headlines have faded. At the end of the ceremony, a commemorative plaque was unveiled that formalized the name of the new center. Salvador, visibly moved, stood up with the help of a cane, but with a more upright posture than Elon had observed during their reunion. "I never sought recognition," said Salvador, his voice breaking with emotion. "I just tried to do my job as best I could, and help when I saw I could make a difference. If I somehow contributed to the success of students like Elon, or any of the thousands of young people who have passed through these classrooms, then my life has been worthwhile." As he spoke, an elderly woman at the back of the hall wiped away tears. Once a student from the 1970s, she had returned specifically for this ceremony, remembering how Salvador had quietly intervened when she faced discrimination as one of the first non-white students admitted under special exemptions during late apartheid. Similar stories began to emerge in the days that followed. Decades of small kindnesses, interventions, and support that had gone largely unacknowledged, but had profoundly affected individual lives. The impact of Elon Musk's initiative extended far beyond Bryanston High School. The foundation he established began to identify and support similar workers in schools throughout South Africa, and subsequently in other African countries. For Salvador and Constanza, the transformation was profound, not only in terms of their financial situation and health, but in the way the community perceived and valued them. The janitor, whom many had seen as part of the school furniture for decades, was finally recognized as a fundamental piece in the educational machinery. "The most valuable thing hasn't been the money or the media attention," Salvador confessed to Elon during a follow-up video call some months later. "It's been seeing how students now stop to greet the maintenance staff, how they really see them. That's a cultural change that will endure." But Salvador's insights went deeper. During a foundation planning meeting, he advocated for systemic changes beyond individual recognition. "We must address why essential workers needed a billionaire's intervention in the first place," he pointed out gently but firmly. "The true success of this foundation will be when policy changes make our work obsolete, when fair wages and dignified working conditions become the standard, not the exception." Elon Musk, for his part, incorporated this experience into his reflections on education and innovation. In subsequent conferences, he frequently mentioned the importance of everyday heroes in complex systems, whether they were schools, companies, or entire societies. Sometimes we focus so much on major technological breakthroughs that we overlook the most basic but essential human innovations. Persistent kindness, silent commitment, the ability to see potential where others don't, he explained during a TED Talk that went viral. "My encounter with Salvador Vargas reminded me of something fundamental. that the world's most sophisticated technology is worthless without the people who keep the basic systems of our society functioning. The story of Salvador and Elon, of the janitor and the billionaire united by a bond forged decades ago, became a powerful reminder of how human interactions, even seemingly insignificant ones, can have repercussions that extend far beyond what is imaginable. In the renovated classrooms of Bryanston High School, under the Pretoria sun, new generations of students found inspiration not only in the world-famous name of Elon Musk, but also in that of Salvador Vargas, the silent hero whose impact, though less visible, proved equally transformative. And perhaps most significant was that in schools around the world, other Salvadors began to be recognized and valued, creating a domino effect of recognition and appreciation that, in its way, contributed to making the world a slightly better, slightly more human place. As one community leader put it during the one-year anniversary celebration of the foundation, this initiative taught us something profound, that transformation doesn't always come from the top down or from spectacular technological innovations. Sometimes it begins with simply seeing those who have been invisible, hearing those who have been silent, and valuing those whose contributions we've taken for granted. Thank you for experiencing this moving story about the reunion between Elon Musk and Salvador Vargas. If you've been touched by this tale of everyday heroes and second chances, please leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Remember that this is a completely fictional story, created for entertainment, though it reminds us of the transformative power of recognition and gratitude. Your support allows us to continue creating content that celebrates acts of kindness and the human connections that change lives.